Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. Um, Shannon Sharp did not put Kobe in his top five. I'm not surprised by that. He's not a Kobe guy. Um, and I didn't see the segment, so I'm not here to comment on it any further. This just gives me a opportunity to speak about Kobe. I don't really speak about Kobe as much as I probably should, given how much of an impact that he made on my life as a child, growing up into a man. Just watching him, you know what I mean, and seeing how he prepared, how he approached games, rather, um, his demeanor, how he handled himself in the media, how he handled things outside of basketball, the progression of him becoming who he ultimately became, from someone who was, had a reputation for being recluse and standoffish and obsessed with the game, transitioning through what took place midway through his career, which was difficult and almost took his career and his life away from him, and then ultimately becoming a father, growing out of those circumstances, coming around to winning his second batch of championships without Shaquille, um, and then ultimately going on to retire, scoring 61 points in his final game, and then from there, of course, we know that he did great things, winning Oscars and making uh, big noise with his talent outside of basketball in the writing field and in movies and storytelling and all of the different things that he just completely excelled in. Um, and one thing that especially miss just personally, was his basketball breakdowns. One of the last things that he really was able to do uh, was his detail series, which I feel was one of the best things for a basketball fan or a sports fan in general, because he did things outside of basketball too, where he break down things and just give us a detailed look, as only he could, from the inside of the mind of someone who studied um, not only his sport but many other sports in great detail, and displayed it, his understanding, simplistically for all of us to understand. I thought detail was one of the great things um, that he was able to accomplish. It really was, man. So I just, when I think about my top five, if we just gonna break it down, I don't think I've ever really given that much conversation. It's certainly not something I'm gonna come up with right here. That's not something you just frivolously toss out there. You got to give that a lot of thought, and you got to do a lot of homework if you're gonna do it right. So I'm not gonna attempt to do that on the fly. But what I can say is Kobe Bryant is definitely in the conversation for the top five for me. I don't have him as my greatest player of all time. I don't. Um, and historically, I don't have him in front of LeBron James. I know that's not popular, but I don't. Now, I do have him as a greater Laker, obviously, and he's a greatest Laker of all time. He's number one in that book. He's ahead of Kareem. He's ahead of Magic for me, based on 20 years of excellence and two different stints of championships, coupled with what he was faced with as well during the most difficult times of things. So when I think about whether or not I want to put him in that conversation or put him in there, the criteria is definitely laid out flat for me to definitely have him in that conversation. Um, but yeah, I'm certain that I do have those two players particularly ahead of him. Kareem, no, excuse me, Michael and LeBron, I do have ahead of him. The reason why I have LeBron ahead of him specifically is just because of being able to win championships at three different places, not having a stable environment really because of it. Um, I just felt like he used the pass in such a way that um, allowed him to be a bit more difficult to game plan against, and because of it, he was able to have uh, more individual success, more MVPs, that kind of stuff. Even though a lot of that has to do with politics, at the same time, I think he was able to definitively dominate, and he never really had a healthy Shaq. Obviously, speaking of LeBron, because he did play with Shaquille, I haven't forgotten that. But he never had a healthy Shaq. He never had a dominant Shaq. So, all in all, I just have him at this point with all the miles and stuff of LeBron. I got Bron ahead of him, but that's notwithstanding how incredibly important Kobe Bryant meant to me personally, as a fan, and how I consider him, looking back on just how much triumph he provided my Los Angeles Lakers with his undying dedication to the sport, and to the organization and to his teammates. Um, and that's what I remember, man. Kobe Bryant did a lot of great things. Also, that people don't remember, he dedicated a great deal of his time to, um, trying to help the homelessness in the greater Los Angeles area. I haven't forgotten his efforts there. They don't get spoken about, but he did some great things, along with a lot of other players too. Shaquille's one of the more giving people as well. We've been very fortunate to have great players wear our purple and gold, man. And Kobe Bryant was definitely a very shining example of what type of character that organization has had within its doors. And I think about guys like Magic Johnson, whose resume is completely and utterly phenomenal in regards to not only what he did on the court, but also kind of laying the pathway for that kind of philanthropic, unselfish type of giving to a community. He kind of paved the way for it to be looked at in such a way. Doing the things that Magic did, creating opportunities with his movie theaters and his different Starbucks and different business ventures that he created jobs for so many people in the city. I'm just very proud of the people that I've been able to root for over the years who've worn this uniform. I think that's ultimately where I've taken the conversation. I'm just very fortunate to have been able to watch Laker basketball, because it just wasn't about basketball. It was so much other stuff going on surrounding the team, surrounding the fame that the team provided, just from having this rich history and all these superstars. To follow this team over the years, I can honestly say that we've had more good guys come through here than not so good guys. And Kobe Bryant just really set the bar for excellence as it pertains to dedication to his craft. Dedication to hard work, dedication to the process. He used to talk about the beauty of the journey. You know what I mean? Not necessarily saying that the destination or the final chapter would be the most beautiful part, but more so the process of becoming strong, the process of becoming great, the process of going through the different little battles that'll help you in whatever it is that you do, and how he viewed competition and how he viewed picking apart his opponents. He would see things in them. You would have to be able to know what questions to ask in order to come up with the type of information that Kobe Bryant would have. You know what I mean? It's like most minds wouldn't even know what questions to ask to come up with the stuff that he would give. He just saw the game and understood the game in such a way that he was able to just display. Anytime he opened his mouth to talk about the game, you knew you were talking to somebody who understood the game through and through, who had mastered the game through and through, and who had dedicated his entire existence to it, up until a point, until he was done with it and then moved on from it. And I thought that was equally as impressive, because growing up, I thought Kobe Bryant would probably be somebody who would have a tough time leaving the game, or even be the type of guy where you'd have to pull him off the court on a stretcher because he would never leave the game. But he walked away from it gracefully, peacefully, triumphant, and then proceeded to take that passion and funnel it into even more impressive feats and more productive feats and things that could help people outside of basketball, man. So, I think of the man's legacy, and of course we think of him as a father, and we remember him as a man who was trying to take his kids and their team to a game on his dime in his copter. You know what I mean? And it just spoke to the type of unselfishness, the type of responsibility that he had come to find in his role as a father and as a leader. And I look back and I just think about how much of a turnout he had for his service, and how many people had so many nice things to say about him. And that's tough to come by, when you've gone through some of the things that he went through, when people scrutinized him in the way that they did, and the reputation that he may have had early on. You don't usually see a guy get that type of response from so many people who appreciated him, not just for what he did professionally, but for who he was as a person. You don't usually get that from people who have had to take that path of being a loner to ultimately being somebody that people didn't appreciate, to ultimately being somebody that everyone admired for just the right reasons. Um, I'd say that's a triumph in life through and through, man. It's a triumph in life through and through. I think he came here, he did exactly what he was supposed to do, and I think we're all better for it, especially as fans. I think that. Um, and two, look at how his wife and his children think of him and speak of him now, man. He's still somebody that they very much champion. Uh, People are still very much excited to mention Kobe's name and wear his shoes and miss him very much. You know what I mean? So I just felt like, and this in no way, shape, or form was to say that Shannon Sharpe wouldn't agree with what I just said, despite not having him in the top five. That's not even where I was going at all. I did not come here to take anything from Uncle Shay and his opinion. It just gave, like I said, it gave me a reason to speak on Kobe. So that's all I want to do. Just give Kobe flowers once again. And look, man, dude, far be it from me to get off this phone without saying how awesome of a basketball player he was. Obviously, right? Like seriously. The fact that he's amongst my top five means that he was elite of the elite, and that you would have to pick apart hairs to try to get to getting five guys. That ultimately comes down to for me. I'm splitting hairs. I'm looking at every little thing, including stuff that was outside of your control, when I try to figure out who's the top five on my list. So, at this point, it's like I don't know where he falls. I'd imagine past three though, past three for me. So that's about as far as I can go with that, man. Really, just all in all, I really want to appreciate Kobe, man. That's it. Thank you guys for watching. My name is BDL44, and I'm out.